Extra. I am here. I have my water close to me.
She said when she came back in, was everyone saying I have COVID? I
don't have COVID.
I didn't hear anyone say that.
Okay.
Just a cold.
I know, my little daughter.
I didn't say it. Nina asked me if people were saying
I asked him. I did. I asked him. I'm okay. It's all right. We are talking about misinformation, disinformation. How do you tell the difference between something that's legit and something you think may be legit? When you see something pop up on your, Facebook feed or Twitter, I mean, it's everywhere, you guys, right now.
That is the news source for many people now, right? Their number one news source is the Facebook news feed.
Yep, social media, and boy, we've taken training here at KGW several times on how to spot, these false news stories and how to really sometimes you'll see a picture of, some area that's flooded. And that picture is actually from years and years before in a totally different city, but it gets reshared and reshared because, that's called misinformation. Just think of it as a mistake, misinformation. When well-meaning people share something that is not true. Disinformation is when it is posted and shared intentionally to mislead you.
Right, Kristen
and to share
Severance
false information.
did a really interesting piece on that, and she also, on the backside of it, passed along some expert advice about how you spot it. Like you were talking about the pictures, you can always do a reverse image search. You just right-click on the image if you're in Google Chrome, and it'll show you, or just clip the article into your space bar and search where it originated. I ask that every single time anybody in my family or one of my friends tells me something,
Tell the story that you were just telling me this morning.
I was at home the other weekend, and Jeff came to me. He goes, "Did you see this about this giant rat or mouse?" I'm like, "What? No, what are you talking about?" He goes, "It's huge. It's all over these news sources."
How big was it?
It was like my size. I mean, when we talk about a giant rat, it was, and I was like, "No, that's not true." He goes, "Well, it's here. Have you seen it?" And so he pulls up the picture, and I immediately Googled it. I'm like, "That is a huge prop thing that somebody threw in some lake or whatever, and then drug it out."
And that's what it turned out to be, right?
Yes.
Now, does Jeff try to fight the cause for a moment, or does he immediately go, "Oh, darn it"?
No, he was just showing me, because he scrolls all kinds of things that I will never click on. So if he sees something that catches his eye, he's like, "Look at this." I'm like, "That's not true."
Not real, yeah. I mean, you have to remember back in the day in the grocery store aisle, and it's still there, like the National Enquirer or the Globe or whatever all those dumb, trashy little papers were. And whatever headline it was, I never believed any of it for a second. I mean,
although the National Enquirer has had a few scoops.
A few, but boy, I mean, my first inkling is to, it's whatever kind of, fake headline.
But the problem is, it's not just in the grocery store. Now we can just share things left and right, and so it goes all over the place, and people just don't think critically about it.
Yeah.
You mentioned Kristen's piece. I didn't know if we wanted to air that here this morning or if we wanted to go to viewer comments.
Yeah, let's set it up. Why not?
All right, Kristen Severance, as Brenda mentioned, aired this piece this morning on our Sunrise show, and we'll show it to you right now here on Sunrise Extra. See, I thought that was the plan.
Director Brian is like, "Give me a second. There are a lot of buttons back here to push."
I just assumed when Brenda brought it up that you were ready to fire it away, Brian. Okay, hit the button.
So it's something that I had been on the lookout for.
Oregon State Representative Julie Fahey knows about misinformation.
So a couple months ago, I heard about a tactic of some folks online to create fake accounts to join, to really micro-target neighborhood groups or smaller community groups on Facebook.
A few weeks ago, when the wildfires were burning across the state, someone new joined Fahey's neighborhood Facebook group of a couple hundred people. His name was Mike. He lived in Eugene, and immediately he started posting wrong information about the fires. He said, quote, "I saw a recording from the Oregon Attorney General who says, 'Watch your neighborhood. Protesters are out lighting fires now.' He said the news is covering it up." The account was fake, and there were some red flags, like the punctuation mistakes and the fact that the Oregon AG is a woman. The neighbors reported Mike's account, and it was taken down. During the wildfires, we saw several online rumors lead to real-world actions. People who refused to leave their homes during evacuation orders, citing rumors that Antifa was in the area. The Clackamas County Sheriff said that was not true. Representative Fahey points to another incident in July. A rumor started on Facebook that Antifa was coming to take down the cross at the New Hope Christian College in Eugene. In response, 100 people, many of them armed, showed up to protect the cross. Antifa members did not show up. It was a bogus threat.
And the moderator of the Facebook group said that right before the incident, there was an influx of people joining the group.
Facebook groups have been called hubs of misinformation and conspiracy theories. Nina Jankowicz, who studies disinformation at the Wilson Center, wrote an op-ed in Wired that Facebook groups are destroying America. She said in 2016, as Facebook pivoted from a digital public square to more of a digital living room, the popularity of private Facebook groups exploded.
What I like to say is the most engaging content on Facebook is often the most enraging content. And the emotional stuff and these communities that are centered around that emotion, again, provide this prime attack surface for anybody who wants to spread disinformation. And they don't even have to invest in advertising or bots and trolls in authentic accounts in order to spread it. They just drop it in the group. And again, Facebook primes them for engaging with that content and sharing it. And then it just takes on a life of its own.
She said it's very easy for bad actors to infiltrate private groups and spread misinformation. The more we're aware and skeptical, the better. Check the source of the article, the date, and the author before you share it.
Another good indication is if you find yourself getting really emotional in response to a piece of content, that should set off your spidey signals, spidey sense, I guess, for you to take a step back and start doing these checks of like, is this a real news outlet?
Again, that was Kristen Severance reporting. We aired that earlier this morning on our Sunrise TV show. Again, we spelled out the definitions for both. If you're not familiar, if you thought disinformation and misinformation were the same thing, misinformation, false information that you share unknowingly. And I was just talking to Brenda about this. This could be as simple as misidentifying a section of the city. You know, we're giving you a report on let's say, an accident. We say Southeast Portland when in fact it was Northeast Portland. Didn't mean to make that mistake, but we shared that information, say, unknowingly. Disinformation is false information that is specifically intended to mislead. You know it's wrong, and you're sharing it anyway with the intent of pulling a fast one on your audience.
Do you guys have Facebook pulled up? Because we did.
Brenda is engaged thoroughly.
Yes, I was
Yes.
sorry, I was trying to read through some of them.
Because
Let's see. I just lost it.
Well, we were asking, we did a post earlier this morning on like, how do you guys, or how do you verify something that you see on social media? And I was trying to pull that up really quickly to read some of the comments from that.
So let's see, Jennifer Taft. Good morning, girl. She's one of our regulars. Let me just see here. She says Facebook has been awful lately, or censoring weird things like art, cartoon ducks with guns, not okay, but real guns are okay. Huh.
she
does those
she's
drawings.
the artist who
That's
makes
right.
those drawings, Brenda.
Right. No, I know she does, but I'm just,
She's
I
getting
guess
flagged
some
for
of the people watching don't know.
Inside
yeah.
Jennifer Taft. I was victim to this earlier in the pandemic. There was a post about, I forget exactly what the headline read, that led me to go and do the clicking, which is really sometimes the intent of these false disinformation-led headlines. And it was a headline about New York City, high-profile New York City tax attorney plunges to his death amid the COVID crisis, the pressures of the COVID crisis. I'm like, oh, Mike, what the heck? You know, I clicked on that, and sure enough, they had a video of this person falling from a New York City building. I'm like, my goodness, what the heck? Wow. But immediately, though, something's like, this doesn't sound right, look right, feel right. And I did that Google search of this video, and it was actually 8 years old. And it was from another country. And sure enough, it was video of someone, sadly, falling out of a building, jumping out of a building. But someone took that video that was now 8 years old, planted it into what looked to be a legitimate article with the headline of someone just now, you know, in the present day, jumping because of COVID. Mm-hmm. That's an example of disinformation. Clearly, they were just trying to get someone to click like I did on this headline, to thinking they were going to get recent new news.
Right. It's also like going down the rabbit hole. I mean, we've seen podcasts, we've, talked about it on our station. The algorithms feed you what you click on. So the more you click on a certain thing, the more of it you'll see. Hence, people are all in their bubbles, whatever their particular perspective is.
I don't think I've ever clicked on a video of someone jumping out of a building before, Brenda. I mean, I know what you're saying, you're true, but as you're saying that, I'm thinking, well, why did I get that article? But who knows, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
Rod, I feel like you're middle America. What are you seeing when you hop online?
Middle
Where do you
America.
look?
Must be talking about my mid-age spread. That's okay. Well, I mean, like a lot of people, I kind of have my checklist for something I really want to see in terms of which national news organizations that I go to. I typically do not use Facebook or social media for headlines. Now, I may see a headline while I'm scrolling to look at, families, friends, post. I may see a headline, and then I'll jump to the different national media sources. But, I'm reading a lot of, as I know you guys are too, reading a lot of the comments by our viewers. And, it's a growing problem that even a lot of so-called news organizations, their news being it correctly or not correctly, is deemed to be biased one way or another by the viewers of that organization. And I think like no time in my lifetime, we really have people scrambling to find what they think is real news. And as we've reported before, if you lean this way, you'll think whatever leans that way is giving you the real news, and the opposite on the other side of the lean. So, it's a problem right now. I mean, no matter what organization I think you listen to, including ours, if you listen hard, you can probably find something that in your mind was a little slanted. And, we all need to do better at recognizing that, I think.
I hope you don't mind me doing this, Rod. I went to the KGW mainframe server, and it shows that you've already been to the Kansas City Chiefs website this morning 17 times.
Well, there is some news. There is some news. Our star quarterback announced that his fiance is pregnant, and they're going to be having a baby. So
okay.
I did actually spend quite a bit of time on the Kansas City Chiefs stuff last
I was kidding, and yet apparently the disinformation I thought I was passing along was actually a true story.
Renee Roberts, some people calling out some good. I haven't watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix, but that is on my list. I did on my little sick time off yesterday watch on HBO. There's two great documentaries. One is called The Swamp, and the other is called Agents of Chaos.
Okay.
And it's all about this.
I've watched the first part of Agents of Chaos.
Yeah,
the second
it is
half.
just fascinating how it really originated from just kids, young adults, teenagers who responded to an ad for content creator, basically, write for the web or social in Russia. And they, thought it was whatever, some legit job. And they get there and they did an undercover investigation into this, certain building in downtown St. Petersburg. And they're told, they're only asked two questions, like, how do you feel about the Kremlin and Putin? And then they're told to start, just commenting in the bottom of, blogs or in the comment section of legit news sites about, oh, Putin is the best, or Russia, is the number one country. And it starts that way. And then there's other teams within that troll group, troll farm they call it, that start building up a little bit more. And they start creating, they made a website called Black Matters US. We're going through this big social justice movement. They started this website. It's full of news articles. Everywhere you click, it all works. And it's pro, Black Lives Matter. And then they'll create a fake headline on that in which a fake Twitter persona will share that article, and then it gets retweeted however many times. And when you click back through to that Twitter profile, to the Black Matters US, it all seems legit. And it just shows how easy it is to copy a Huffington Post article, highlight that text and change it, and then repaste it on there and share it in an account that looks legitimate and has so many followers and actively posts. And it is very hard to tell the difference. But if you trace it back, the documentary shows, they bounce it from different servers in the US, so it looks legit, but it ultimately goes back to Russia in these instances that they highlight in the documentary. But it is very fascinating.
You were saying too, The Swamp, which I have not seen yet, but it's on my list of things that I wanted to watch, has a lot to do with money in politics.
Yeah, I was surprised to see, and I mean, let us know, you guys, if you guys have seen any of these. There are 2 on HBO. I know a lot of people don't have HBO, but they're great to watch if you can get access somehow. But The Swamp was all about, and it follows like 3 or 4 Republican senators and congressmen real time through the impeachment and the war with Iran that we almost got into. And it talks about all of these high committees, like, for example, Oregon Representative Ron Wyden is on the Ways and Means Committee, which
Senator,
is the Senator Ron Wyden is on the Ways and Means Committee, which is the top, highest ranking committee in Congress. And you think, oh, he's been a long time senator, you know, he has a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge. That's how they get on these committees. Or the Ethics Committee or the Veterans Affairs Committee, and the Veterans Affairs is the Class C one, it's very low. That's not how they get on there at all, and they openly talk about this. You have to raise so much money for the party to buy your seat on that committee, and the Ways and Means Committee has the highest price tag of all of it. And this documentary talks about you cannot ask for money on federal property. So they have this thing where you have to go across the street, and the documentary walks them across. The Republican senator, hey, come follow me, we'll show you. This is the University Club, where they have undercover video of these little phone booths with numbers of donors, and they cold call on their breaks and on time off to raise this money to keep themselves on these committees. And it's just
it's like those seats are up for auction, right? To the highest congressional bidder.
Exactly.
We have Heather chiming in this morning. Heather Sundblad Road. She says, to her, it is absolutely shocking the amount of disinformation that is so freely shared through Facebook. She says, for those of us who actually do some researching on our sourcing, it's obvious that a lot of it is false, but still so surprising to her that people so readily believe what they see on Facebook. She says the algorithms utilized in the industry are dangerous tools used by social media that just keep that misinformation and disinformation going. You mentioned the Netflix documentary, the name of which slips my mind.
Social Dilemma.
Social Dilemma. I've watched half of it when we were trying to watch it with our kids.
Is it
and
good?
It's a lot. It is very good. But we knew like they had reached their kind of their breaking point in terms of attention. So we kind of stopped watching halfway through. We needed to watch the second half. It's very good, but it speaks to that very deal, the algorithm, and how they basically set it up with this characterization of 2 people that are inside your brain just kind of firing off like, does he want to see that picture right now? I think he does. Click, and that picture, you know, pops up in your feed, and that gets your attention to where maybe you were going to be putting your phone down, but now your phone is still in your hand. And they talk about those endorphins that sometimes we get from all kinds of different pleasures. But there's actually an endorphin rush inside of our bodies when you hear that ding go off sometimes. It's like, whoop, what is that? You know, I'm getting something. And they, you know, I think it's especially dangerous, and they talk about this for younger people. And I've said before, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if we just wiped it all away and we just got rid of the social media and we started from scratch without it, because I think it was better before. That sounds like a very old person's way of thinking, I know. And Brenda said, dude, you know, that train has already, you know, it's left the station. There's no going back now. But I think for us it's different because, you know, we entered this whole social media deal, entered our lives in our adult years when maybe our brains were already formulated and we had the sense of mind to maybe walk away, hopefully, some of us. But kids, they're definitely more affected by this. And that was the other point from that documentary that really stuck with me. There is no getting away from the fact that the suicide rate amongst teens, especially younger teens, we're talking 13, 14, 15, has skyrocketed since 2007. That's the same year that Facebook got its, you know, real public boost and became mainstream. And you know, whether you want to believe the two are connected or not, it's hard to not connect those dots.
Well, I mean, think about it. You mentioned suicide, but anxiety and depression also at epidemic levels right now among young people. And think about when we get a negative comment at our age. You know, I mean, we're in the public eye, and so we hear all kinds of different opinions. People say all different kinds of things about us. It still doesn't feel good. Now imagine that you are just kind of developing your whole sense of identity, right? So yes, your point is really well taken. Karen Terry Hunt on the stream also says, clickbait news is part of the problem. People read a headline and then they run with it. The article might have all the information, but people are not always reading it past the clickbait headline.
Right.
Good point.
Agreed.
Yeah, and sometimes, I don't fault people. Sometimes they don't have the time. They just, they're passing through and they catch a headline. Maybe they were running out the door, whatever it is.
We're all
Unfortunately,
busy,
unfortunately, they didn't get the full story.
Yeah.
But it's that headline that kind of drops some of that, not the full story anyways, into your brain, and then you're off and running with, an incomplete story.
Right. Exactly.
And we fall, like Rod said, we're not innocent in all that. And I can tell you right now, working here for 14 years like I have, there's not a committee that's sitting in there going, what's the most sensational headline we can put in there that's going to make them click? But we do say, hey, we want people to come to our website. We want them to read our stories, and we want to put together a headline that does grab your attention. Doesn't mean it's going to be false by any means, but we are trying to find some attention-grabbing headlines. That's kind of what is part of our business. It's our responsibility to make sure that those are responsible headlines. And
Go
not
ahead,
misleading.
Rod.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say this, and I highlighted and was going to read that same comment that Brenda read about the clickbait. And even in my world of being a weather forecaster, you can't get the full story about anything if you invest 3 seconds of your own time. And that's what it takes, if not 2 seconds, to read a headline, where it may take you a good 20 seconds or 30 to read the article. And I think all of us would better serve ourselves, including myself, if we would invest in that time. My simple experience is somebody sees a raindrop on an icon on a weather forecast, and I go, man, it was supposed to rain today. What happened? I'm like, well, if you would have read the forecast, it said slight chance of rain, but unfortunately that triggered that one little raindrop on the icon, and that's all you saw.
That's a great
simplistic example, but a good one, actually. So we all need to invest more time in what we're looking at and reading. I mean, it's on all of us as
before you share. And
consumers
Twitter
too,
was
this
going to
problem.
do that. Remember that thing that they were going to implement, and maybe that's still on the table, is they have a prompt that will pop up before you hit retweet on an article that will say, are you sure you want to retweet this? Have you read the article yet? Because it's exactly what Rod was saying. We're all so busy, and we see something, to stop the scroll, that's the, that's the goal for everyone, is to stop the scroll. And if you just hit share without actually reading it, you're perpetuating that. And so Twitter was going to do that prompt.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Nelda says, it's okay to quit Facebook altogether, people. We have that freedom.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes
I would
you
if
do have to
work
just
would
kind
let
of
me, I would not be on
self-select,
Facebook.
right?
True.
And you don't have to be exposed to everything. If you're on a hair trigger and every time you see something, what did she say? Engaging content on social media is enraging. And we have way too much of that, right?
Totally.
I think Jeff Lucas makes an excellent point this morning when he says Sunrise Extra is the only legitimate news source. Thank you, Jeff Lucas. And you know what? He has his supporters. Willie Huey replying to Jeff Lucas, for real, exclamation point.
I saw everyone asking where Chad was.
Yeah, we put Chad on Sunrise Extra.
Photographer Chad?
Popular.
Actually, we put Chad on Sunrise, the TV show, on Tuesday for National Coffee Day. He was at a local coffee stand, and he set the camera up in a spot where he could walk around from it, and he was there sipping his coffee.
Oh, nice.
And the camera hung on his face for a good amount of time. People were loving themselves some Chad.
Okay.
Director Brian just got in my ear and said, bye-bye. You think that's it? You think that's the closing remark today on Sunrise Extra? Oh, Rod's hitting the clock.
Rod's
I guess we do have to go. All right. Thank you for watching this truthful edition of Sunrise Extra. We'll have another truthful edition coming your way tomorrow.